$150 can change the world. Sounds like hyperbole, but you will hear how Elke Maguire, Marissa Messinger, and the Friends of Geuoul, an incredible organization headquartered in Denver that enables female students in Senegal, Africa, is changing the trajectory of girls, families, and ultimately a whole country, $150 at a time, on this episode of Making Our World Better.
Welcome to the Making Our World Better podcast, where you will find motivation and encouragement through lively conversations with inspirational people who every day are making our world a better place. Now, here's your host, Jay Clark.
Welcome to the podcast. I am Jay Clark, and I am excited to have a conversation with two leaders from the incredible Friends of Geuoul organization, Executive Director Elke Maguire and Associate Director Marissa Messinger. Friends of Geuoul is an organization dedicated to enabling female students in Gueoul, Senegal, to achieve economic and life success. Can't wait to get into it. Elke has been the Executive Director of Friends of Geuoul since November of 2019. She speaks several languages, including French, and has lived and worked extensively abroad. Most recently, she helped market emerging artists. Marissa brings a strong gendered lens of programming, policy, and ethics as a master social worker and a master of arts in international development. Marissa has been working with girls and women locally and abroad for the past 7 years, establishing the connection between a nation's growth and women's empowerment. I can't wait to learn more about both of these great leaders in their organization. Elke and Marissa, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, I would love to start for you to tell us about the mission of Friends of Geuoul and how you would describe the organization to somebody that doesn't know anything about it.
Well, we are enabling, like you said, girls in Senegal to go to school. It's 3 different ways we're doing that. We have a scholarship program that is awarded annually. At the beginning of the school year, a group of parent-teacher association in Gueoul, not us, selects girls based on need, if they need to be supported. We then come in and so that list gets narrowed down to 2 per school, which is 12, and we're hoping to grow that. There's definitely a need there. And we then give them a backpack with school supplies at the beginning of the school year. And we have a program there, local staff that helps them in after-school program to learn. We call it News Club, Fun Club. And it has access to computers, and it gives them additional classroom time, tutoring, one-on-one, test prep. And then at the end of the school year, we have a big celebration. We call it the Fête. Awesome. Where we give out the scholarships. So everybody who went to school, who did well, gets a little more sometimes. That's when your $150 that people donate per person comes in. So like I said, we have the News Club, but we also have e-learning. We had computers donated to us about 10 years ago. And for some of them, that's the first time they will be at a computer. So we tried to enrich this over the summer. We realized you need to have summer school there. Yep. We had programs in journalism. We had programs in English as a second language, because if you think about, they learn Wolof, the local language, at their home. They go to first grade, they have to learn French. In high school, they're learning English, and they basically then have to be proficient in English to go to college. So, and we hope to grow that part a little bit more, because we have now over 16 girls that are going to college since we've been around since 2005. So after 13 years of school, they're going to, it started 3 or 4 years ago. The first ones graduated and went to college.
That is so awesome. So give me a little bit of a geography lesson for somebody who's a knucklehead like me. Where in Africa is Senegal?
It's in West Africa. So when we leave here, we go to New York, and then in 7 hours later, we are in Senegal, in Dakar. And then the actual trip starts, because then it will be more like a 4 or 5 hour trip to that smaller village, Gueoul.
And there's something really unique about Gueoul's geography. We're just a few miles south of the Sahara Desert.
Oh, wow.
So it's very warm, it's very dry, and it's sandy. If you drive just probably, an hour or so, you are in the Sahara.
Make sure you got your radiator of your car ready to go. But I'd love for you to tell us about the history of the organization and how it ended up being headquartered in Denver.
Yeah, so our co-founder, Judy Beggs, who is unfortunately not with us anymore, she was a returned Peace Corps volunteer in the 90s. And she was a practicing lawyer in Denver, Colorado, and just kind of felt the need to pivot her life, joined the Peace Corps, and was sent to Gueoul as a health volunteer. Judy was a woman who broke many glass ceilings herself. And when she got to Gueoul, she witnessed that there was a lack of female participation in the classroom. And she saw that in her own host family's house. Their daughters weren't attending school. And so when she returned back to Colorado, she got with one of her good friends, John Montagna, who is currently a board member and has been a board member. They started sending a little bit of money to Judy's host family. And a few years after that, it turned into an official 501c3. And I think the inaugural class of Friends of Geuoul in 2005 had less than 7 students. And it truly has grown into this community project of creating continued and sustained access to education so that girls are a part of the system in Senegal.
That is awesome. And it's amazing when you think about the cost. The cost to educate a pupil in Colorado is somewhere around the average cost, somewhere around $8,500. And you guys are getting this done for less than $200.
Yes.
I would love for you to explain how huge an impact you're having for really such little amount of money can have such a dramatic impact.
It really is huge.
Yeah.
So for $150, you can support one Friends of Geuoul student for her entire year of school.
That's amazing.
It's incredible. And as a first grader, when students are welcome to Friends of Geuoul family, we meet them all individually with their family and do like an overview of what Friends of Geuoul is, welcome them to the program, and tell them that they are being awarded a scholarship at the end of their first year. They also get a backpack full of school supplies. And then for every Friends of Geuoul student, that $150 gives them their scholarship, access to all Friends of Geuoul programming that Elke previously described, and annual an annual school supply distribution. So students are equipped and ready to go to the classroom.
Yeah.
That is incredible. So, and something else I'd love for you to talk about, y'all have been over there several times, it sounds like, but talk about the obstacles that these girls face in going to school that is, we just completely take for granted here.
Dear God, where to start? And it has changed over the years. When Judy went there in 1992, and then back in 2005, and even in the last 4 years, I mean, I was first there in 2019. There was almost no female in a leadership position there in Gueoul. And we have now our first woman principal. There has never been a principal, female principal in Gueoul in the whole history. We have we have them on our board. So it's really awesome. Exciting, because that's the new development too. We are now an organization there as well as here. So, but yeah, and those girls, it changed the mindset of the parents, because they saw the girls graduate. They saw what it did. I mean, it's a changing of the minds. You can do all kinds of good if the people that you want to do that with don't agree with it.
Yeah. So is one of the biggest obstacles there just this mindset about, girls going to school?
There definitely is cultural entrenched norms that are present in Gueoul. And when I was just there in March, and in October, I was there again for the start of the school year. And I had the opportunity to sit down with some of our post-bac and BFM students, so students going into university and moving from middle school into high school, and talk about this exact question. What are your challenges? Where can Friends of Geuoul support you more, and what are we doing good? I want to hear from you. And the common answers I was getting were, electricity in their home. How do they study outside of the classroom if the informatique, which is our building, is closed? How do they have access to the internet? And then just the familial duties that all students have. There's chores and siblings potentially to take care of. There's a lot of challenges. But what I have seen, and I think Elke could attest to this as well, that what started out as a project to really target the youth of Gueoul has turned into a community-wide reinforced project where the community is seeing that this really is impactful for us. And, we're seeing women in leadership positions for the first time in Gueoul. And that's also simultaneously inspiring Friends of Geuoul scholars to succeed and fight through their challenges.
And their parents.
And
it
their
changed the mindset of the parents, because I remember Judy saying, they want to marry them off at age 12, or they need to help with the household because there's so many children. So that really has changed. It's like, but that's good. She can go to school and she can help us later on.
Well, and I love on your website where it says, when girls are educated, their entire nation profits. And I love that. So talk about how important it is to really close this gender gap, because like you're saying, it sounds like when you're doing this, you're not just impacting the students, that's rippling across the whole family and the whole culture.
There is a lot of emerging evidence that supports access to education as one of the most impactful tools when working to eradicate intergenerational poverty. And that statistics will also show that girls who are educated have lower birthing rates, fewer children, wait longer to marry. And so there's a lot of health effects, personal health effects that will further impact their children. And there's a little bit of trickle down from national government.
Oh, sure. I was going to say.
Senegal has a lot of gender positive legislation that has been passed in support of girls' access to education and to family planning, et cetera. And that's all trickling down slowly into everyday people.
Right. And that's going to help, that's going to take the stress off the government to support, people are having kids too early or too many kids that they can't support and everything else. So how many of the girls that you're working with there, and I'm assuming it's a lot, they're the first ones to go to school and they're from their families?
Oh, yeah.
So this is a really interesting question, and it's something that we generalize. We say that for many, so we currently are supporting 168 students from first grade through high school.
That's
and
awesome.
16 in university. It's incredible. Like, the impact is huge. Gueoul's population is about 11,000. And that is a statistic that I really want to know. Of our Boussiers, of Friends of Geuoul scholars, how many of them are the first in their family to have access to education and go to high school? The statistic in Senegal is a little over 10% of adult women will say that they had the opportunity to reach the start of secondary school.
1 in 10.
10%.
Wow.
And we go to their home and interview them. So we find out a lot more. Is mom going to school? Has she been? Is dad present? So we know a lot more about them then too. And a lot of times at least when I visited, it was the first one to go to school.
You guys do have a Senegal-based staff, obviously, and I know technology is great for communicating with them. But I want to talk about what your guys are up against here in the U.S. and what are the challenges you're facing from a fundraising standpoint and operational standpoint being here in Denver?
Well, okay, where to start? The first and totally legitimate position that some of our donors have is, well, there is local people that need more support.
Right.
There is, I need to help support people in Afghanistan. There's that. Yeah. And what do you say then? You're like, okay, well, what we're doing there is really important. But obviously Afghanistan needs to be helped.
Right, sure.
People here need to be helped. So Yeah, I mean, that's one of the challenges for sure.
And it has to be difficult. I mean, Colorado now we're kind of right in the middle and we're a great hub, but it also has to be one of those things where there's so many people that you could reach. How do you even start to get the word out about what you're doing to reach all the folks here that would probably be willing to help?
Well, we have a huge Senegalese community actually here in Denver, which I did not know before I started. And we're part of learning that, we just started being part of the African leadership group. We are trying to go nationally. I mean, this is only supported for now by private donation, most of them locally, most of them friends and family. And we're trying to reach out to a bigger donor base nationally, internationally. I mean, I would love to see that.
Well, the work you're doing obviously is rippling across generations, and could have an international effect, obviously, because of, immigrants and all that. It's fantastic. But this is probably a difficult one because I'm sure there's tons. But do you have any favorite success stories that you could share?
I mean, Marissa, on her last visit, visited with some of the girls that go to university. Mm-hmm. And one of them her name is Soda Lo. And I first met her in 2019. She is incredible. She's like super smart. We were trying to get her to maybe come here to university or even spend her last year of high school here, which obviously then didn't happen. The pandemic happened. Judy passed away. So, but she graduated last year in the science arm of the high school diploma, which is very, very difficult to do. First of all, the high school diploma is very difficult because it's everything you ever learned in tests at the end of 13 years of school. And it's not in your language. It's predominantly in English or French. And she, the first time, it was right after COVID, didn't pass that. They asked her to switch over to the language side. And she's like, no, I stick with the science. And she passed. And she's now at university. I mean, this is not just one of many, many stories. Sure. And Judy probably would have known so many more, but this is just what we have experienced for the last 4 years.
Well, and again, I think this goes back to the obstacles that these girls face that so many take for granted. I mean, you talk about taking an SAT exam or something here. You're taking it not in a language that you're comfortable with. So to do this, part of your work has to be convincing these girls that they can do it.
When we try to, at the celebration of the end of the school year, we always try to have a professional Senegalese woman to speak to them that can say, well, look, I'm a lawyer. I made it out of the village. And that's another thing we're trying to grow in Senegal now that we're an organization there.
Sure. Well, do you have a big, audacious goal for the organization, and any ideas what it would take to accomplish it?
Yes. So this year, we currently welcome 14 scholars a year in first grade. They're 7 years old. And I got to be a silent participant and just observe how the scholarship selection happens. And this was October. And so I got to see the way that the Parent Teacher Association that Elke referred to collaborated with the headmaster of 6 elementary schools in Gueoul and take a list of about 40 students and narrow it down to 2 to 4 students between all the schools to equal 14 students.
Per school. 4 per school. I mean, it's crazy.
And so the question of, can we grow? That was always something that was kind of percolating in our minds as a board and the development of our strategic plan. And the answer is absolutely yes. And there's clear, explicit need for us to do so. Mm-hmm. So starting this fall, we're going to welcome 2 additional students and we'll grow annually by 2. So this year we'll do 16, 18, and that seems like a really small number, but we have to also think about our capacity as an organization. We also want to strengthen and equip News Club with partnerships with other NGOs that are operating in West Africa and specifically Senegal to kind of help reach students more holistically. We want to build that critical consciousness of you can do this.
Yeah.
You can be successful. And we want to really develop a post-bac program to support students into university and transition them into that period of their life.
You're obviously having an impact. You're seeing female leaders emerge in your school. You're walking with kids with these girls from the time they're in first grade all the way through high school and into university. So what most excites each of you about the future of the organization?
It's such a privilege to be able to sit down with the students who are being impacted directly by Friends of Geuoul's work. And getting to do that 2 to 3 times a year is such an incredible experience to see the tangibility of this work. Elke and I are up a brick wall sometimes and just like putting out fires.
Yeah.
But when you have the opportunity to sit down with these students, whether they're 7 years old or they're 18 years old, that's really inspiring. And I think that that's what I look forward to is the growth of this organization, that the impact is so real, it's so tangible, and that there is clear need for us to grow. And I think that's what keeps me going, is that it's working. Our model is successful, and we can keep growing.
Well, it's such an amazing story to think $150 a year, and you're changing a whole country, a whole culture. That's stunning.
I mean, that's what sometimes when we come up against something, this costs so much here, Mag. For a dinner for 2, we could help a girl for a whole year to change her life, not just go to school, but she's changing the life of herself, her family, and when she has children, there's data that says they will go to school.
Thing.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, stunning. I'm super impressed, and we'll wind things down here to change topics just a little bit. But I would love to hear something that each of you will either read, listen to, or watch today.
Oh, I have a really cool book that I'm reading right now. I mean, cool is probably the wrong word. It's by Gabor Mate, and it's about trauma and healing. And I'm fascinated by it. I just picked it up from the library. Usually I like to read fiction. I'm never that deep, but this book is excellent.
And isn't it remarkable how the impacts of trauma are just
a sickness? Yeah, anything. I mean, but he explains it so well. It's incredible.
That's great.
I am reading a really fun book for me. It's called Don't Think, Dear, on Loving and Leaving Ballet by Alice Robb. I am on this journey, I guess, of kind of healing my inner child. And I've returned back to ballet after I danced for 20 years and I took a 4-year break. And so I'm reading this. Thanks. I'm reading this book about a former ballerina. And it's really awesome to hear her professional experience in ballet through her point of view.
If you could point to role models, especially in the work you're doing, who would they be?
When I first started, I read a book by an American woman that started an organization in Senegal called Tostan. And it was similar to ours, but when they started, not about education. And I have to say, starting this new job 4 years ago, that was one of my role models.
Somebody that I look up to, and I was introduced to her work in grad school, is Audre Lorde. And I have a sticky note on my bulletin board I've carried around with me for 3 years. It goes everywhere that I go. And one of Audre Lorde's most inspiring and impactful works to me is about master's tools. And the quote says, "What does it mean when the tools of a racist patriarchy are used to examine the fruits of the same patriarchy?" And I try to interweave that into our work at Friends of Geuoul, that we are gently disrupting the system and further advancing women's rights through the creation of access to education that will have lasting generational impacts on their family.
And my last one is, if somebody wants to support the work you're doing, learn more about the work you're doing, donate, what's the best way to find you?
Well, definitely go to our website. You can sign up to be a subscriber. We'll send you an email maybe once a month, so we won't trash your account. But follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can also on the website donate. It will show you exactly $150 for a one-year scholarship, $2,000 to keep an entire class in school, and so on. And help us spread the word. That is our biggest challenge right now, that people will know about us. Everybody has 10 friends, and let us know. We have marketing material. We can send you links to all kinds of intros to Friends of Geuoul, but definitely help us spread the word. And we would love to hear from someone from the press, or so we can
get the word
out there.
And remind us the website.
It's gueoul.org.
Awesome. Well, I will put that all in the show notes. Truly admire what y'all are doing. As a girl dad, I love it when I see strong female leaders, especially strong female leaders that are empowering the next generation. So Godspeed for safe travels.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this inspiring conversation about the Friends of Geuoul. This podcast has been brought to you by JC Charity Services. Being a nonprofit leader is hard, and we can help you thrive. Learn how at makingourworldbetter.com. You can learn more about the Friends of Geuoul and support their work at www.gueoul.org. Check the show notes for links, and if you enjoyed this podcast, we'd be grateful if you'd share it with a friend. Until next time, I hope you're inspired to find a way to make our world better.